How important is it for you that there will be a Holocaust monument in Amsterdam?
Well, it's incredibly important. I mean, the Holocaust or the Shoah is not just event in history, it's events that change history. The murder of millions of people, and particularly in Holland and Amsterdam, where per capita murder of Jews was the highest in Europe, higher than in Poland or in Ukraine or Lithuania. It's the right time to build a monument in order to make sure that these events never take place again. It's not just a monument of names, but a monument which is also a warning for the future. The meaning of the design is to be a witness to the 102,000 Dutch people, Jews, who were murdered in this terrible time. And the monument is made out of bricks. Each brick has the name, has the date of birth, has the date of deportation and murder. And it's really part of the city. The site itself, where the monument is located, housed 178 Jewish families. So it is the right place, and it's time to build such a memorial.
At what time were you approached by the Auschwitz committee?
Well, so many years ago, I don't even remember. I have worked many years on this project, and of course there was a whole other site, and there was a protest, and then of course site was given, and now we do have support of the municipality, of the mayors, of the architects, but you know, there's always a kind of a process and obstacles to the process of building such a monument.
That's also one of the reasons we're doing this interview right now. Your presentation was in 2014. The intention was to reveal the monument a year later, and now it's 4 years later.
Well, it's very disappointing. One would think that given Holland, given people of Amsterdam, I think the great majority of people appreciates and wants such a memory to be in the heart of the city, next to the Portuguese synagogue, next to the Jewish neighborhood in which these people lived. But there is a small group, I think it's the same group, that protested before and probably protest forever.
Yeah, is that your feeling?
Oh, yes.
It will take forever.
Well, if we are lucky, not. But, you know, it's part of a process, but I'm very hopeful because it's a project that has been in the public limelight and, you know, approved and so on.
Well, some people say the design is quite impressive, or maybe it's too big for the park.
It's not a park. It's a widening of the street. It's a little strip. The project is really just the right scale. We're not talking about the trees, and we're talking about dogs. We're talking about the Holocaust. We're talking about an event in which millions of people were murdered, and here in this city and in this country. So that's what it's about. It's not about trees or dogs. I grew up in the aftermath of the Holocaust. My parents were survivors of the Holocaust. I grew up under communism and under anti-Semitism. So I understand the urgency to educate, to give light, to remember. That's something that I think every enlightened person believes in. And I have no doubt that this city and this wonderful country will also have this memorial.
One of the reasons that the start of the building is postponed is also that neighbors don't want 25 trees to be cut down.
You know, we are planting more trees than were there, but the monument is not about trees. It's about the bodies that perished, the souls that perished, the thousands and thousands of people of Amsterdam, of Holland perished. Let's not compare them to a tree. Let's compare them to life and what that life means into our future.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced this kind of delay by a design by you in another country?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have experienced it when I was first building the Jewish Museum in Berlin. It was a long delay, a lot of discussion. It was difficult at that time for the city or for the people to understand that there is no way to shut out the history. That history cannot be sort of just forgotten and left in oblivion, because at some moment it will come out. And we see the currents of hatred today in the world. We see currents of neo-fascism, of anti-Semitism, of bigotry. That's why we need a monument that really remembers the lives, testament to the lives that were here, and teaches us something about what not to allow to happen to a civic society today.
Yeah, and there's also going to be another lawsuit in May. The opponents will ask the judge to look at the permit again. What do you think if, again, a new place has to be found?
Well, people can protest and protest and protest, but in a democracy, a small group of resistors cannot overcome the majority opinion. You know, democracy is about the greater good. And I think, as I said, the majority of people in this country, in this city, understand and want the monument. They appreciate it. They understand what it is, not just aesthetically, but in terms of its meaning. So I don't see how a small group of people who were protesting from the very beginning and will protest to the end of their lives on any monument, how can such a group really be taken as an obstacle to a large public project? And I think, yes, I'm hopeful that this will be resolved in a positive way.
Is this frustrating for you?
Well, you know, it's not my personal frustration. It's not a personal frustration. I think of those names. I think of each one of those individuals, children, elderly people, families who were part of this city and vanished. Didn't vanish just into the thin air. They vanished because of murder, because of what happened here, because of collaboration, because of the fact that neighbors promoted evil acts. That should be remembered. And memory is really the future. Without memory, you don't have a future. And I think that is why the Holocaust is not just one event, but an event that has informed the world today. We look at the world differently because of this genocide. And we see genocides and wars around us, but we think about them differently. It depends now on what people in a democracy can do to not only avert, but make sure it never happens again. It's not about my project, it's about the names. And if you come to this memorial and walk into it, and you start reading just single names and calculating the number of years these people lived and where they were just in that neighborhood, you begin to see the world in a slightly different way, both more positively, but also memorably. And I think that's important to bring to the heart of the city so many decades after these events. It's unbelievable that this city, this country does not have a major statement. Well, Holland is a great country. It's a great democracy. It's a liberal country that is second to none. And it is a country that I think has decided to create that memory so many years later. But it's never too late to celebrate, to remember, to avert, to give an experience to people. And an urban experience is very important because unlike a book that can be filed away, unlike a mouse that can erase something, a memorial with the names is a presence. It's a witness to time past, but also something that speaks to the future. So I think it is important in this beautiful country, in this beautiful city, to create this rather modest memorial, given the scale of catastrophe. This modest memorial, which I think will be appreciated by people here.
Do you still have faith it will be there at this place, at the Weesperstraat?
I do have faith. I do believe in democracy. We see around the world small groups changing you look at Brexit, you look at all these things, small groups with their own agendas really destroying the tolerance that the democracy really is built upon. So I do believe that the Dutch tolerance and the Dutch idea of the world will prevail.